on my computer. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We did not get questions ahead of time for today's call, so please send them in the chat. You can send them to everyone or you can send them to just me, but we would love, whatever questions you guys have will help us to know just what you're wondering about, and we can make sure we're educating on things that you guys want to learn more about too. So send in questions, and also know if you have a question, someone else has it too. So we have people that have been working with us for over a year, people that are just starting. So there's never a question that's too simple. So please ask them. And sorry, my husband's having some kind of an emergency. We were going to talk through first on just kind of fat loss, because I think the majority of our clients want to see fat loss. So we were going to kind of talk through like a checklist for that. Henrietta, would you mind starting that so I can see what Craig needs really quick?
I will.
Okay. Do you have that pulled up?
I have it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to call him real quick, and I'll be right back.
Yep. So the things that we need to think about, I'm going to start by saying that I think that most of our clients, when they come to us, are ready for a fat loss, right away, and maybe expect that. But what we see time and time again is that we have to start somewhere else, most often in the reverse, at least being in maintenance for some weeks, just for us also to be able to get to know you guys and see how you're dealing with your nutrition, what you're getting in of nutrients, protein, fiber, micronutrients. Is it something you struggle with? Does it come easily? Just because all of those things is very important before getting into deficit, because being in a deficit can be mentally stressful, but it's also every time a stress on the body, no matter if it's a mental stress or not. Being in a deficit is important. And then what we see time and time again is that we need a reverse most often as well. And that is because we need to make sure that your metabolism is working as well as it can, so that you can lose fat on as many calories as possible. So we do our best to keep hormonal health in a priority for long-term results. So that when we then we can ask ourselves, okay, where do we stand? Are we ready for a fat loss? And then we can start with, of course, do you want to lose fat? That's the important thing. Of course, I guess that you want to lose fat if you if you want to go into deficit. But how are you dealing with emotions and stress at the moment? Just on an average with general in life, are you dealing with that well? Or not? If you're not dealing with stress well, and if you have a ton of stress in your life that comes from various places, then going in deficit is not optimal. We're not saying that it's not possible. Optimal. Working on stress management first would definitely set you up for success on a higher rate before you're entering a deficit. So that is something to be aware of, just how much stress affects the results that we are getting from the work that we put in. And then let me see. Yes, and that is also, this is kind of connected to how does your life look? Is there a lot of changes going on in your life right now? Are there a lot of changes coming up, in near future that would take a lot of your attention and also maybe add stress to your life? Because that will probably not be the best, setup for a time deficit.
Oh, you're cutting out, Henrietta.
Every time in life. Sorry. Can someone take over and then
I can take, yeah, I can take over. Yeah, for some reason it's cutting out. So yeah, just big changes. Like, have you recently had a really big event that maybe has caused a lot of stress, or do you have something coming up that's going to make it hard for you to be in a calorie deficit phase? So just thinking through those things. And then one thing that's important, are you able to prioritize protein and fiber? And this is something that we can help you with. But on that, if you're going to move into a calorie deficit, we want to make sure that you're getting enough protein, you're getting enough fiber, so that you are maximizing being able to maintain muscle throughout a deficit. We don't want you losing muscle. We want it to be coming from fat. And then we also want to make sure that you're satiated. If you're eating really low protein, not getting enough fiber, you're not setting yourself up for a successful fat loss phase. So then that's something that we can work on with you. If that's like, the answer is no to that, it's not the end of the world, but we may want to prolong your maintenance phase to make sure you are optimizing protein and fiber before moving into a deficit, because it's going to be a lot harder to hit those when you cut calories. And then, do you have a regular menstrual cycle? If not, let's definitely talk about why we don't want to be adding. Usually we're losing our menstrual cycle because our body's under a lot of stress. So we don't want to add more stress from a calorie deficit, because that's only going to further impact your hormones and not leave you in a good place. And do you get 8 hours of sleep? Is it more like 7? Okay, that's workable. Or is it more like 5 or 4 and you're just, really low on sleep? Then we need to figure that out before we can be successful in a fat loss phase. Recovering well from workouts.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
On that note, really quick, just about being successful. I think all of us coaches want you guys to respond as quickly as possible to a fat loss stage while maintaining the highest level of your health. So keeping all of those things in mind. So trying to minimize hunger, which is possible on a deficit, minimize additional stress, all of those things. So just knowing that our goal for you is to really respond to a fat loss so that we have to stay in it in a less amount of time overall.
Yeah. And also, since I missed the beginning, sorry about that. This isn't like you have to be 100% on all these questions in order to enter a fat loss phase, but these are things that are good to think about and consider. And if there's like half the questions that are no, then that's a good opportunity for you to ask yourself, like, maybe the timing's not quite right for this fat loss phase. Maybe I need to work on these things first. Or if it's like, okay, most of these are yes, but I do have a couple that are still like not there, then let's work on those and maybe still move into a fat loss phase, but we want to be aware of everything so we can just manage and, like Casey said, optimize everything as much as possible, because your short-term goals are important to us, but we want you to, a year from now, be able to maintain that progress. So it's kind of pointless if we lose 20, 30 pounds right now, if you gain it all back in a year, right? So we want to just really make sure when we're entering into a fat loss phase that, one, it's going to be sustainable. You're going to feel your best in that phase. And two, we're setting you up to maintain that progress really well. So recovering well from workouts. Do you have energy to get through the day, or is energy really low? Then let's talk through and address that first. And then this one I think is the most important. Have you spent an extended amount of time out of a deficit, not dieting? So in the last 5 years, or even 1 year, 2 years, like, have you been out of a deficit, or have you just been like continuously dieting for the last decade? If that's you, then you're going to really benefit from some periodization there. Like, take time to reverse. Let's maximize your caloric capacity, your metabolic capacity, and what your intake can be, and have that be your new set point for maintenance. And then we can move into a fat loss phase at a much higher calorie intake and be successful. Where if you've been just dieting kind of off and on forever, then your metabolism is going to be functioning way lower. And that can take some time to come out of that too. So if you've been doing that for 10 years, don't expect to just be in a really good place metabolically in a couple of weeks or a couple of months even. So that's, thinking that through. And that's something that I like to talk to you guys about on your goal assessment call. So you do have realistic expectations also with that. And then does your why come from a place of self-love? Like knowing that that number on the scale isn't going to change how you feel about yourself. So just recognizing that it's okay to want to see progress and change, but doing it from a place of self-love versus like desperation is going to allow you to see progress a lot better, but then also to recognize that like, there's always going to be things that we're working on. So there's never like, this is the end goal. It's okay. I'm choosing to maybe be in this fat loss phase and feel my best. But I'm not going to be coming from a negative place, because if you are, it's going to be really hard for you to like see and feel progress there and to ever be satisfied. And that can really cause some more stress for you. So being okay with putting your fat loss goals on hold, if that's the case, and working on other things like improving performance. How can we increase energy levels? How can we improve your sleep? All of those things are going to be really positive for you. And then
it's important to remember when you're looking at those, that you're still working towards your ultimate goal. Like, it doesn't discredit the fact that you want to be healthier, you want your body fat to be down, whatever it may be. Taking the time to manage your stress and to focus on your mental health and to get better sleep, like all of those things are holding the hand of your ultimate goal that you do want to lose body fat.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think one other one that's important, which it seems like this isn't one we really have a huge issue with. I feel like a lot of our clients are really realistic with this, but do you have enough time to diet down sustainably, like losing about a pound on average per week? Or are you trying to lose 30 pounds in the next 12 weeks for some event? And that's going to be really stressful. So can we sustainably diet without having to crash diet? Yes or no there. Have you given yourself enough time to do that? And then I just got a question. Is there a rule of thumb on how long someone should or can stay in a fat loss phase, or is it based more on how you feel and a certain cutoff point for calories and increased activity? I love that question. So the answer, as usual, is it depends. So kind of rule of thumb, I think, is some things that we look at as coaches, and you guys can add in on this, are going to be total calorie intake, right? So if, and that low is going to differ. Like if someone comes in and they're 4'10", 1,100 calories is really, really low, but that they might still feel really good. So we're going to look a lot at biofeedback and calorie intake combined. Is their menstrual cycle regular? Do they have energy? Are they getting good quality sleep? How are their hunger levels? How are stress levels? Kind of all the things we talked about. And then also like how far below their maintenance calories are they? What's the discrepancy there too? Are they able to get enough protein in still? Or are they like how's compliance also? Are they still really consistent and feeling really good? And then we can probably stay there for a little bit longer. Or someone else might be at 1,900 calories and compliance is really dropping and they are struggling to keep their protein intake up, or they're feeling terrible, or their stress levels are really high. Like we might need to bring them up to 2,400 calories and it's time to come out of that deficit. So it's really variable there. It also depends on how much body fat you have to start. Someone that has 40% body fat versus someone that has 22% body fat, you're going to be able to stay in a fat loss phase longer. You might just need like breaks, where someone that's at 22% body fat and wants to get down to maybe 18, 17%, they're going to be in that fat loss phase for a shorter amount of time. They're going to start to not feel as good kind of towards the end, and we're going to want to just kind of get in and get out. So it sort of depends on the individual. It depends on their stress levels, kind of all those things we've talked about. And I think that's why we're constantly assessing biofeedback each week, so that we can see, okay, like maybe your biofeedback is really good, your body's responding still, but you're just mentally done. Like that's a good time to assess and evaluate kind of where you should be at and what changes, what adjustments should be made. I just had a client who she is seeing progress, but that's kind of where she's at. She had a number in her mind on the scale that she wanted to get to, but she's feeling a little bit stressed with the lowered calorie intake. And so she was feeling like a little bit like, oh, am I a failure for not continuing in the fat loss phase? Because that was my plan. And just letting her know, like, this is a really good time to evaluate your why. Like, why do you want to be to that low number on the scale? And also, we've been in a fat loss phase for a while. So maybe this is a great opportunity to move to maintenance, feel that increased energy. And ultimately, her goal is to feel and look her best and to have her clothes fit well. So recognizing that, like, building muscle and continuing to lean out, but maintaining on the scale is going to really change her physique and shape her physique, probably even more than just continuing to just lose body fat without putting on any muscle. So talking through moving into maintenance and prioritizing increasing her weights in the gym, she's going to still see really great body composition progress, which is her ultimate goal, not a number on the scale. So just, evaluating like what your why is can really help with that too. And then checking in with yourself throughout the process. Do you guys want to add anything to that?
I want to add, I think that also it's very important to remember that you don't it's not just one deficit. You can enter as many deficits as you want throughout the coming years. So if you are not getting to the place that you wanted to be on your first deficit, then you go back in a reverse. And basically, when you are in reverse, you're still in a deficit, and then reach maintenance, build some more muscle would be preferable. And then when you enter your next deficit, maybe that will be what takes you to where you want to be. And then with the added muscle on, you will have to lose even less to get to where you want to be. So that using those both muscle and fat loss is a great way to just get to where you want to be as quick as possible. And then knowing that just because you have reached the end of your first deficit, then that doesn't mean that it's the finish line. It's just, this is like part one, and now we continue and work our way from that. And then if that means that it's going to take another deficit period, then that's where you're going to be, and that's where you're going to go. So for me, what I do with my clients, just to talk numbers, is I say that, like, okay, for the most, 12 weeks is the longest that we stay. If you're feeling really great, if your body is reacting really well, your hunger levels are good, then we can stay a couple more weeks and then reverse. And that will also be a part of kind of the deficits. But maybe you feel like crap after 8 weeks. And then I would say, okay, let's reverse back now. Because it's never there's no deficit is worth feeling like crap. So you always have, for me, I will always have the clients, and I think that for all of us coaches will always have the client's well-being like as a priority. And then it's up to you as a client, of course, to decide what's important to you, how do you want to feel. But it's more likely, if you are feeling like crap for 6 weeks in the deficit, that you will get to a point when you just feel like, oh, I'm just gonna, I'm not going to care about anything, when you then go out of that again. So just having well-being as a priority, I think, is very important. And then instead of then cramping out kind of the last few weeks, thinking like, okay, I'm going to reverse now, and then I'm going to enter new deficits after being in a maintenance for a while. So just not seeing it just the long term, and seeing it as a long-term journey, and just, the excitement in that, and seeing that maintenance is a great time to build muscle, to work on habits, to to feel your best, be energized, just not just long for that deficit period that is actually the worst period if you're thinking about well-being, and just seeing all of the positives that comes with maintenance. And if you then also work to build muscle, you don't have to maybe stay in the deficit for that long, because you can look how you want to do quicker, just because you have more muscle on your body, and that kind of shapes you in the way that most of us want to be shaped. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having like internet issues over here. We have a storm where we're at in autumn, are like in and out. But yes, I love all of that. Do you guys have any other questions on just periodization in general? I think that's a big piece, is just asking yourself, like, have I been in a deficit for a really long time? Am I ready for a fat loss phase? Have I ever tried being in a calorie surplus and like really trying to prioritize building muscle? Because if I really want that lean look, we were just talking about this on the call earlier, and Autumn mentioned this, a lot of people want to have that lean toned look. Maybe losing weight isn't the answer for that for you. Maybe it is spending a time in a calorie surplus and building muscle. And then when you lose body fat the next time, you're going to be able to see that muscle and achieve that look that you're looking for. So if what you have been doing isn't giving you the results that you want, like being willing to trust the process and try something new too.
Plus, Michaela, I don't know if you guys have talked about this because I've been in and out, but I think it's important too, in a maintenance phase, you really learn how to eat. You learn how to strategically place your calories. You learn how to eat to where you're full. You learn how to eat to where you meet your micronutrients, you meet your fiber. So then when you do go into a fat loss phase, into a deficit.
Yeah, yay for our storms. Can you guys hear me? Well, or did everyone freeze? Oh.
I think Michaela lost service.
Oh,
now it's back on.
It's back on.
Sorry, guys.
You guys, we have a storm. We have a big storm here. And so it's like we're in and out of internet service.
So, but I think also what we have to remember is that for long-term result, and all of us would choose long-term results over a quick fix that doesn't last. So to be able to have that, just learning how to nurture your body the right way is going to be key. So that will give you a lot more long-term, just to learn, to get your protein in, get your fiber in, get your micronutrients in without you stressing about it or without you putting in too much work. And that is best done in maintenance. So if you can nail that and feel like I got this, then you will be a lot more successful long-term than if you, as soon as possible, just enter a deficit and then you lose some pounds and you feel happy, and then you feel like, check, I've done this, I don't need you anymore. And then you go off on yourself. But maybe you haven't learned as much as you could have if you would have stayed in maintenance for much longer, that you could feel a lot more confident. And also when you then maybe have a period in life that is very stressful, that will just go on by itself, because it's just there, like learning how to ride a bike, instead of you have to using a lot of energy getting it right, so to speak. So I think that just looking at maintenance as that as well, it's just building a lot of knowledge that will set you up for success long term. So basically what I try to tell all my clients is that looking at maintenance as a period that is supposed to be a long period of time, if you're looking at a whole year, and then just really appreciate that time, and then and all of the positives that comes with that, I think is gold.
Yeah, and I think too, on just periodization, when you are at the end of that fat loss phase, it's really important to take time to have a reverse from there that's focused versus just going from 1,400 calories up to 2,000 calories. That's where you see that big spike in weight gain for a lot of people if they're going from a calorie deficit just right straight up to maintenance calories. So taking the time to do a slow reverse so that your metabolism can adapt slowly and you can sustain that fat loss. That's something that, we can help you guys with in the reverse stage, or we can give you kind of some guidance on doing that on your own. Just in simple terms, like keeping protein intake the same and bringing your calorie intake up 50 to 100 grams a week, and assessing biofeedback, making sure, if the scale does spike up, which can happen, you may want to stay there for a little bit longer and then increase again the next week. So doing that reverse up to your optimal maintenance range will allow your metabolism to adapt, and you'll build that metabolic capacity while maintaining on the scale, ideally. And then from there, we talk about this with our clients too. Tracking your food is a really great tool, and it's going to allow you to learn so much, but it doesn't have to be forever either. So when I have gotten this question, like, when is the right time to stop tracking? That answer will totally depend on, the individual. But I would say doing it when you're in maintenance and you've established that maintenance and what like your food intake should look like, what your plates should look like, how much protein is, about right for you. That's a good time to loosen up on tracking and maybe eliminate the app at that point and be more intuitive, because you have a really good idea of just what that intake should look like for you to maintain on. Where it can be harder if you are in a fat loss phase to move to intuitive eating, because you don't really know what that maintenance looks and feels like for you. So it can make it a lot harder to eat in maintenance. You might just like naturally stay at that low calorie intake, and then your metabolism's going to stay lower and you're going to be maintaining a lot lower than is optimal for you. Or you're going to shoot right to a calorie surplus, which is going to, it's just going to be too big of a jump and your metabolism won't have time to adapt. And that's where you're going to see, maybe you'll see fat loss, but then you're going to gain quite a bit after. So having that periodization and doing it in a smart way is going to allow you to really, maximize your long-term results, and then also feel your best throughout too. We're not meant to be way under on calories forever. And a lot of women are really low on calories and really low on carbs. And that's where you have health issues come up and things. So if you're experiencing, a lot of things that we kind of talked about on this call, like, let's really focus and prioritize. That's really important. Focusing on and really prioritizing your internal health markers so that you can see that sustained fat loss. And it might take some time to do that if you have kind of dug yourself into a hole there from, long periods of under eating, over exercising, not getting adequate micronutrients. So those are things to consider. And I think just remembering that you're moving that marker, like, you're going to be able to see fat loss in the long run if you are able to prioritize and kind of do the unsexy work first to get there. Anything else I think we kind of focused on fat loss on today's call. I would love to do another one just on, benefits of reverse dieting and like what a calorie surplus could look like for some people too on a future call. If that's something you guys want to learn more about as well, because I think that's something we don't talk about as often, especially with women. Any other questions? Oh, I see. Oh, I got a yes, please. Yeah, for sure. I think maybe we can do that more on the next call, just highlighting more of, what a reverse diet looks like and what the benefits are there too, as well. Anything else you guys want to add? Sorry for the internet issues today.
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Well, I hope everyone has a good rest of your week, and we will plan on talking next week. Thanks for joining, guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.